Hello, I want to welcome everyone to The Power of Our Story. And today we have Eric Barrera. He is a United States Marine Corps veteran, not an Army veteran. Sorry about that, Eric. I know how touchy that can be.
All good.
Anyway, I'm just so happy to have you here, Eric, and love to hear your story. And then stay tuned because we'll have a great conversation afterward. So, Eric, tell us about yourself.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Eric Barrera. I am a housing specialist and the lead peer navigator with Healthcare in Action Street Medicine. We're a medical group providing primary care to the homeless population. So rather than expecting the homeless population to keep a doctor's appointment, we bring the doctor's appointment to them. So we provide primary care, social services, occupational therapy, mental health services, substance abuse treatment, and housing navigation. We don't have an office, we're mobile. So pretty much anything that can be done in a clinic, we can do from our vehicle. And if someone wants to address their cycle of homelessness, their addiction, or come indoors, they can. It's not a matter of if they can. It's really a matter of if they're willing to. Access to services in Los Angeles County is really hit or miss depending on bed availability. Some people luck out and they decide to get clean and sober when there's a bed available at a nice treatment center like Tarzana Treatment Center, or one of those places. But for others, sometimes beds are full, and the only place with an open bed is a mission down in Skid Row. And Rachel can tell you, we hear all the time, like, I'm not going to Skid Row. You can't get clean there. And I really challenge anyone. If you have a pen, if you want to jot this down, I really challenge anyone to go to YouTube and search Union Rescue Mission Gavin's story. This was a young man who was homeless in Skid Row, strung out on drugs and talking to himself and just totally hopeless, and he went to the Union Rescue Mission down in Skid Row and decided to get sober. And he went to school to become an EMT while in treatment, and we're able to celebrate over a year sobriety with him, and we were able to help get him hired with us. And now he's working out on the streets. He's making good money, and he's making a difference in the world. And being able to be part of people's sobriety or recovery, it's really a special thing for me. I didn't go to school or anything to do this kind of work. I haven't always done work that I'm proud of. Just like Gavin and a lot of my other friends in recovery, I am a recovered drug addict and alcoholic. I really believe that I was born an alcoholic. My father was an alcoholic. My grandfather was an alcoholic, and a lot of the men in my family, they deal with alcoholism or some type of substance abuse. So for me, blaming others for my alcoholism was so easy growing up. It definitely wasn't helpful. Blaming others prevented me from being accountable for my actions and just being accountable for my recovery. In my alcoholism, I was a really bad drunk driver, and I'd wake up in random places saying, "Hey, thanks for picking me up last night. I was trashed," and only to hear someone tell me, "Nobody picked you up. You drove." And I'd look out the window and I'd see my piece of crap truck, and the fear would set in, knowing that I drove a vehicle like that, like pretty much blindfolded, and I could have really hurt someone. My cousin, we used to party together, and he was just as wild. And for him to pull me aside and say, "Man, you're gonna wake up in prison one day and have to spend the rest of your life locked up for killing someone and not even remember doing it. That was an eye opener for me. And I'm a loving person, I'm a caring person, and my biggest fear was hurting or killing an innocent bystander during a blackout. And my best thinking at the time was that I was going to always keep cocaine or methamphetamines on me. I was going to keep it on me at all times to prevent any blackout drunk driving. And that worked for a while. I never blacked out again, but I couldn't keep a job. I was on drugs. You couldn't count on me for anything. I couldn't be on time for anything. And I had an excuse for everything. And eventually I ended up homeless. I come from a loving family. Everyone tried to help me. My mom, my dad, my aunts, my uncles and cousins, regardless of whether they were alcoholic or not, or regardless of what they were going through. I had a lot of support. But at that point in my life, like, I was really beyond human aid. No one could help me. I was spiritually bankrupt. I needed a spiritual awakening, and I ended up homeless for 6 years before I went to the VA. Oh yeah, and I think I forgot to mention that I went to the Marine Corps after high school, and first I was in Camp Pendleton and I loved it, and then I was stationed in North Carolina, and it was just a culture shock for me. The Marine Corps out here in California, it's different from the Marine Corps down south, and I didn't. The Marine Corps down south was tough. It didn't matter how well I did. I always felt like I was the wrong skin color, and but I never felt that out here in Pendleton. We were all green. We were all the same color. We were all brothers, and so I got out of the Marine Corps with a lot of mixed feelings, because I know that my love for the Marine Corps and what I experienced clashed. My experience doesn't define the Marine Corps in its entirety, and I still have a lot of love for the Marine Corps and the veterans that I work with. But yeah, so I went to the VA after that 6 years of homelessness, and I let them know that I haven't been able to stay sober since I've been out of the Marine Corps, and they let me do an inpatient drug treatment center called New Directions for Veterans. And the craziest, and excuse me if I really try not to cuss, I'm just passionate about this, but the craziest shit is not everything that I saw when I was a homeless drug addict and alcoholic for 6 years. You could imagine what a homeless drug addict and alcoholic sees over a 6-year period of time in Los Angeles. I mean, it's horrible. The crazy thing is that when I finally went into treatment, I didn't believe I was an alcoholic. I thought I was only a drug addict. I loved my beer, and I soon realized that every drug relapse for me, it started with that first drink of alcohol. And I didn't have a good relationship growing up with my dad. He wasn't there a lot, but he came to pick me up in treatment. He drove all the way from Ventura County, wherever he was living, and came to LA and picked me up and signed me out of treatment. And we really bonded over, we went to go have pizza and a pitcher of beer. And I remember him telling me, man, if you can just stop using drugs, you can get your life back. And there's nothing wrong with having a beer here and there. And so I remember telling him that's why I'm here. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get a handle on this. And we had a good time. He dropped me back off at the treatment center. The staff there asked how my visit with my dad went. I told him it was great. We bonded. I left out the part, about that we shared a pitcher of beer, and I went upstairs and I went to bed, and it just validated what I believed initially, that, see, I'm not an alcoholic. I don't have a problem with alcohol. It's just drugs. And the next day I had to go to the Social Security office to file some paperwork, and the treatment center makes you go on a buddy system so that you're more accountable. And we went there at 9 a.m. when they opened. They told us to come back at 3 p.m. And so we're like, what are we going to do this for all these hours? It's a long time, from 9 to 3. And a pizza place opened up across the street around noon, and we said, I remember saying, let's go get a pizza. And my buddy Daryl, I asked him, are you an alcoholic? And he says, no, I'm a heroin addict. I don't have a problem with alcohol. And I said, oh, well, then we should be able to get a pitcher of beer. And he agreed, and we had a pitcher of beer, and we had a pizza, and everything went so well, like nothing bad happened. And so it went so well that I decided to get one more pitcher of beer. And before you know it, we're 4 pitchers deep. I missed my appointment, and I can't go back to the treatment center with a buzz like this. And so my best idea was that I was going to call my drug connect, and he could bring over some crystal meth, and we could do a couple lines and shake it off, shake the buzz off, and go back to the treatment center fine and alert. And my drug connect came through, and he brought some crystal meth and some heroin. And I relapsed on everything that day. And I had already been in treatment for a couple months. And so I had this, they call it a head full of recovery and a belly full of booze. And that was me that day. And there's a reading that we read from every morning. And part of that reading says, this is a progressive illness. We get worse, never better. And hearing that in my head, this is a progressive illness. We get worse, never better, hit me like a ton of bricks when I was sitting on that curb, high on alcohol, meth, and heroin. I thought, I'm getting worse. I'm not getting any better. I'm here in treatment, and I don't even do heroin, but here I am getting worse. So we went back to the treatment center. We pissed hot. They pretty much told me to pack my shit and get out, that if I'm not taking my, I'm not going to jeopardize everyone else's recovery because I'm not taking my own recovery seriously. And I couldn't argue with them. So I started packing up my stuff, and the director told me, he said, what are you going to do from here? What do you plan on doing? And I said, I can't live like this. I can't live dabbling in drugs and alcohol. It's just not working. And I think I'm going to go to another treatment center and see if maybe I could be successful there, because I can't keep going on like this. And I think he saw the sincerity in my face, and he told me, I'm going to give you one more chance, and I'm go back up to detox, stay there for a couple days, and come back down and start programming. And I was so grateful for that second chance. I went upstairs, and normally detox is full of people who are shaking it out. They're sick on heroin. They've got diarrhea, or they're throwing up, and it's nasty up in detox. And but for some reason this day there was no one there. It was just me, and it was so quiet in this big, it looked like a cafeteria dorm. And all I could hear is my thoughts and the buzzing of the fluorescent lights, and the buzzing just started to get so loud. And I remember just breaking. I got on my hands and knees and I cried, and I said, God, please kill me or fix me, because I'll kill myself. And I have scars up my arms and across my neck, my head, just from half-assed attempts of wanting to take myself out, and I was planning on doing that again somehow. I remember falling asleep and waking up the next morning feeling this fire inside me. And I felt like the kid who got bullied, like I had enough. Alcohol was bullying me. It was kicking my ass. It was holding me down, and I was done. I was going to come out fighting, and I was going to come out fighting. I was going to kick some ass, take some names, and I'm going to make sure that you're going to know who I am when I leave this treatment center. And I was just so pissed because I was already 33 years old, and I had nothing to show for my life. And that's kind of what happened. I got out of detox, and I wouldn't listen to anyone who didn't have at least a year or more of sobriety. And they all said, go to meetings, ask for a sponsor, and start working the steps. And that's exactly what I did. Working those steps with a sponsor, it showed me how to be accountable for my actions. And I was in mental health treatment at the time. I was seeing a therapist, and I think my therapist saw this change in me once I started working this program, working towards my sobriety. And he asked me if I was interested in volunteering there at the mental health clinic that he worked at. And so I didn't have a job at the time. It made me feel like I had a little job, volunteering. And so I volunteered there for about 9 months, and that ended up turning into a 7.5-year career. I was hired permanently. And, in that 7.5 years, I was able to house more homeless veterans and more families than I could even remember sometimes. It's been a great experience getting sober, and I really thought that getting sober would just create this boring life, and I wasn't going to have any more fun. And the exact opposite happened. All my friends are in recovery, and even the ones that aren't in recovery, they're quality normie. We call them normies, people who could drink like adults. They're quality normie friends. They invite me to go out for dinners and go socialize, and I love being the designated driver. If any of my friends are enjoying drinks, I feel like I love being of service. I think it was about 5 years into sobriety, I started dealing with depression again. I was unhealthy and obese and miserable, and I started looking for a group of friends to help me get accountable for my fitness and wellness. And that's when I met the Skid Row Running Club. With the Skid Row Running Club, I've had some life-changing experiences. There's one of the members of our running club, Philip Pang. I remember him telling me, alone we run fast, but together we run far. And that's been my experience with the Skid Row Running Club. I've traveled to run marathons in different countries and these exotic islands, and the Amazon jungle, with jungle children coming out to run beside us in sandals. Just some amazing experiences. I ran inside San Quentin prison with some of the inmates, and to hear one of the inmates tell me, man, running with you guys felt like I wasn't in prison. I forgot for a moment that I was in prison and I was never getting out. And so that moment, it was special to me. I feel I really live for those moments. I hold those moments close to me, and today I feel like I am living a life beyond my wildest dreams. It's hard for me to talk about sometimes because I feel like I'm bragging. I've been in documentaries and books or magazines or podcasts. I can go on and on about the miracles of recoveries and the miracles of recovery. And, this, I don't take credit for this for 1 second. This is not me. I really believe that this is God working in my life. And it's just my God is just showing off in my life. And you know, in recovery, I've experienced love, I've experienced heartbreak, I've experienced failure and death. But by the grace of God, I haven't found a reason to drink. I really learned in sobriety that if I put my recovery first, above all things, that whatever I put second it'll be first class. And I've had a lot of first class experiences, you know, from flights to banquets and speaking engagements, and you know, ASICS, the running shoe company, ASICS sponsors our running club, and during the LA Marathon, thousands of people were freezing their asses off outside at the finish line waiting for the race to start. And you know, I'm in the Dodgers clubhouse stretching out with the elites from Kenya. Like, I'm not even a good runner. And you know, I think how the hell did I get here? And it's God, it's recovery, and I really feel like God's telling me, you know, you take care of my people, and I'll take care of you. And doing this kind of work, this kind of outreach, you know, working in sobriety, I feel like God's taking care of. He's just taken better care of me than I've ever been able to take care of myself. And you know, I'm not a religious person. I do roll out of bed and hit my knees every morning, but I'd be lying if I said I go to church every Sunday. Sometimes I do. I guess my cop out is like, I feel like the church is God's army full of amazing people. But you know, people in sobriety, I feel like we're God's special forces. You know, we're fearless, and we go where normal people don't want to go. And we're the first ones in, the last ones out, and we'll keep coming back, and we'll take whoever wants to come with us, and no one stops us. You know, so if you know anyone who's struggling with addiction or alcoholism, please feel free to share my story with them, my number, my email address, whatever. You know, I definitely didn't do this alone, and they don't have to either. So yeah, I'll talk to whoever, wherever, because I believe that this is my primary purpose now, to stay sober, help others achieve sobriety, carry this message of hope. I really feel way overpaid in recovery. You know, I've been brought back to life from the gutter, and the way I see it, like I owe big time. And so I'm here to be of service. And you know, my name is Eric Barrera, and thank you guys for inviting me to come and share.
Oh my gosh, Eric Barrera, make me cry. I am so proud of you. Oh my gosh, I'm so proud of you. Okay, I'm going to try not to cry again.
Thank you.
That was so full of such hope and solution, just, I mean, so solution oriented. And I'm so excited to meet you. You are definitely going to be in my, you know, on my list to direct people to and learn from. I'm just so proud of you, and I'm so grateful that you're here sharing your story. So awesome. I want to open it up to people to make comments, just so I don't miss anyone. If you can just do the little hand icon, because I don't want to miss you. Terry, did you have your hand up? Yeah, go for it.
I think she's muted.
Here, I am telling you, you're muted, and I'm muted, so you didn't even hear me.
Eric, I appreciate you sharing your story. And a lot of it actually resonated with me. I got into drugs and alcohol when I was 11, 12 years old. I got sober when I was 19, and that's why I chose to go into law enforcement, because I wanted to make a difference.
Wow.
So to that, and the other thing that kind of struck me is I actually got into running and lifting weights when I was 15, and that's ultimately what saved my life. I had always thought I was trapped in the wrong world, and having the athleticism is what saved me and helped me get sober. So, and on that note, alcohol wasn't my first choice. No. So the question that I have for you is, the business that you're in, you indicated that your primary focus is working on individuals that are homeless and helping them get the assistance that they need to get out of the predicament they're in. Could you explain a little bit more about how you go about that? Because I do know psychologically a lot of homeless people fight that.
Yeah, you know, we hit the streets. We try to come with a, you know, not gifts, but, you know, come with something first before we start asking all these questions. We come with waters or snacks or whatever, and you know, we try to address their immediate medical needs first. And you know, once we build that trust with them, we start to talk about recovery options, housing options, and we kind of leave the ball in their court. You know, like if you're not ready now, here's my card. Call me when you're ready. And we just try to not be too pushy and make sure that when we leave them with a good feeling.
So what would you say that the percentage of these individuals that actually get back to you and reach out for help? Do you know the percentage rate?
I don't know the percentage rate. You know, a lot reach back out to us, but you know, the percentage rate of people who actually, you know, follow through and go through a program and actually go through the whole process it's small, because you know, there's a lot of red tape, there's a lot of loopholes, and some people it's just easier to say, I'm not doing this.
Sadly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Terry.
Yeah, it's a hard arena, isn't it? Addiction is a hard arena. And yet it's incredible what you've been able to offer for those who are ready and willing, isn't it? I mean, it just seems like you are just, you got the right stuff to meet them where they're at. I love that. Paul.
I decided to unmute first. Eric, thank you for your presentation. I know that takes a lot of courage, and courage is the counter of fear. I'll start out by asking you, do you know Dion Joseph?
Yeah, Officer Joseph.
Yeah.
Yes. I he probably won't know my name, but I definitely know who he is.
He is a wonderful leader, and he worked on Skid Row for 15 years and decided that love was better than handcuffs.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not afraid to say it. And he helped a lot of folks just like you. In fact, I think he started the Skid Row Running Club. I'm not sure about that, but when I first read that, I thought, wow. But, you know, it's getting people up, it's getting them moving. It is creating some camaraderie, because the people who are running together tend to flock together. And they tend to watch each other's behavior. And so there is some level of accountability in all of that, and that is very useful. But in any event, I don't have a particular question for you. I just want to compliment you on being here and being courageous enough to deliver the message that you did today. I know it's not easy, it's not fun, but it's there, and a lot of people need to hear your message.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much, Paul. Yeah, if you see Officer Joseph, let him know we said hi. The Skid Row Running Club was started by a Superior Court judge, Craig Mitchell, and I'm sure those two know each other very well. So
They do.
That's so great. You know what? You know what's so funny is I wrote down Dion Joseph to connect you with on my notes. So Paul, I think we're thinking the same. And then there's also Shad Meshad, who is the founder of the National Veterans Foundation that reaches out. Do you know Shad? Okay.
yes, I know Shad. Yeah, he's awesome. We've done some training together.
Oh, that's awesome. I've actually gone up to LA to meet him in person and spend time with him to hear about what they're doing. He's been tireless since Vietnam in trying to get this arena to help veterans and hopelessness right in LA. And he amazes me. So, okay, good. So you know those two. Scott.
Hey, thanks, sir. Hey, Eric, Semper Fi, brother. I'm a retired Marine. Thank you for your service. Half my career was East Coast overseas, and the other half was Camp Pendleton in Miramar. There's absolutely a difference between East Coast and West Coast Marine Corps. I think the East Coast is a little more uptight, a little more traditional. West Coast is, they're not, right? So I like the West Coast better as Marine. My grandfather was a Marine. He went through Camp Elliott before it went to Camp Pendleton. He was a World War II Marine, fought in Tarawa. But anyhow, hey, your story it's incredible. I mean, it's hard to listen to, but that's good because it shows that people can get through the tough times like you have done and come out the other end as an example for others. And I'm always amazed at people like you that once you go through this, instead of going off in life and doing something different, but you could have done anything you wanted to. You had a heart for turning around and reaching your hand out to others to help them along the way because you felt compelled to do that. You felt blessed through your experience and where you are now. And that's so powerful. That means so much to people. And, I've got family members and friends that, have suffered from alcohol and drugs and those combinations. And when you're on the outside looking in, you feel so helpless, because you see it for what it is, and you're trying to, get your friends or family members that have these issues to see it differently, and they fight you like that. It's been discussed, and it's such a hopeless feeling sometimes. And my heart goes out to people that are suffering. I see Ben Owen and his wife are here. My God, you guys are incredible, the work that you do. And yeah, I guess you guys are special forces in that way, because you absolutely are not fearless. And seeing what you guys are doing and, all the things that get posted on LinkedIn. I'm a LinkedIn guy. I don't really do other social media, but it's persistent and it's there. People are seeing this. You guys are making a difference, and thank you for that. God bless you guys.
Thanks, Scott.
It reminds me of that, those who have been forgiven of much, love much. And then I think about the people who love much are the ones that are leading the way, the brightest lights, the most powerful lights of hope. So I'm going to cry again because I'm so moved by this whole conversation. Thank you so much. And then Ben, you've got your hand up.
Yes, ma'am. Eric, your story's awesome. You changed Marine to Army and flip-flop the moving from the South to the West Coast for me, and our stories are pretty much identical. Every single thing you said could have come out of my mouth. Even the percentage of the folks you see that actually do accept help, it's depressingly low. But It's one of those things where, and I've said this before, just one person taking that extended hand is worth the pain that you go through for all the no's and all the people you lose. And thankfully, you know, we do see more than just one person take the extended hand, but it takes time. And you know this. I love what you said about the guys in recovery being like special forces for God. And I do believe that with all my heart. I mean, we've seen just in the last year, vets in recovery from, you know, heroin addiction, opiate addiction, alcoholism, go to Ukraine and deal with unexploded ordnance, train territorial defense forces and special operations over there on how to deal with UXO. We've seen a lot of them work the Afghan evacuation. We've seen American medical students pulled out of Ecuador. And this is all by people that, you know, you may or may not realize are in recovery from most of them having been homeless at some point in time. The question I've got for you, are you guys expanding what you're doing anywhere outside of LA, or are you very much geo-focused right now? You're muted.
Thank you so much, Ben. We are expanding. We just built a team in San Diego, and yeah, they are really looking to build this up way further than Los Angeles. We just launched January 1st of this year. And so it's fairly new, and we really it's hard to keep up with how fast we're growing.
Yes, so there's definitely no shortage of need out there, and the demand far exceeds the capabilities of those of us trying to be the suppliers for services like this. We've worked in San Diego some, and on the other side of San Isidro and Tijuana and Baja. We're looking at trying to do what we do in Memphis and Atlanta and DC in Skid Row. So I had no idea you were going to this call or what the podcast context even was, but as you mentioned, it's got to work all the time. So I would love to sidebar with you after this. I don't want to hijack the talk here, but there's a lot of parallel efforts, and I think you guys are doing something we're not doing, and we're doing stuff you're not doing, and there's a lot of synergy here.
Absolutely, Ben. My number's in the chat, man. I'd love to talk with you.
Awesome. I'm going to shoot you a text
right
now.
Yes, that was the hope right there. It's so good to hear that. Awesome. Quick question to you. You said MHS, is that the mental health systems connected to Courage to Call in San Diego? Is that what you were connected to, or is that something different?
Are you talking to me or Ben?
Eric, yeah, you.
Oh, no, I said DMH, Department of Mental Health. I don't remember saying MHS.
Okay, I just misunderstood. Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, because they're trying to do a lot too. They work with veterans in San Diego also. You know, this is such a big subject, isn't it? And it's just so sad. Like I even see this in San Diego. You see the homelessness, it's so much greater now because of, you know, COVID, and it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking to see what's happened in LA. I think that's why I'm such a fan of Shad, because I mean, over, what has it been? 40, 45 years. He has just not stopped in trying to figure out this problem. And it's really exciting to see the work that the Owens and you are doing, Eric. I want so much to get the word out, to draw the right people, to help draw the right people for all your efforts. It's so powerful. And I see Brenda on here too. Brenda does a lot of work in LA also. I don't know, Brenda, if you want to share. I don't want to put you on the spot here, but she's doing great work.
I actually came on late, so I didn't hear the story, but I know about the Skid Row Running Club because of Judge Mitchell, and I actually know Dion. So if you don't have his number, I can connect you. Yeah, I live in LA, so I'm very, very familiar with what is going on in Skid Row. It's not pretty. You know, we've got the mayor's race going on and everybody's infighting about who's doing what and what's not going on. So it's really nice to see that those that have stepped up to start programs to help others.
That's awesome. Thanks, Brenda. Brenda is a nurse too, you know, for 35 years, living right there in the heart of LA to be part of the solution, to prevent suicide. So I'm very proud of Brenda too. She's been a big part of our tribe on the first responder calls Thursday nights. So thanks, Brenda. Does anybody else have any comments or questions? Oh, Ben, did you? Yeah, go ahead.
I think Scott touched on something really important, and it's the power of social media. I think that I've never come across anybody that sees the kind of work Eric does and what we do that isn't just enamored with it and doesn't love it. And it's not just because we're focused on veterans. I mean, obviously, as a nonprofit, we have a focus for vets, but when we're out there working on the streets, you can't step over the dead bodies of civilians just to get to the vets. It doesn't work that way. So, you know, I think the more we can talk about this and normalize it, not just to remove the stigma, but get people to realize like you can make a difference in somebody else's life. And that's the big takeaway. I've told a few different stories about just the smallest little incidents in my past where somebody did something just tiny, kind to me, maybe smiling at me, and it gave me the strength to keep going another day. Those little things, you never know who that person you keep going is going to turn out to be one day. Like I say this all the time, by no means am I special. There are plenty of Bens still out there on the streets that are capable of coming back and I think going out and doing really good things. And I think the more that we can get these stories highlighted on social media, the more we can tell them, the more we're comfortable talking about our backgrounds and what we've been through, where we came from, where we're headed, and what we're trying to do. I think the more we can see, because you mentioned this, Sarah, the increase that we've seen in homelessness and addiction over the last few years is staggering. And obviously the effect on the veteran population is way, out of bounds with what we're seeing overall, but it's not just COVID, it's the housing crisis. We've got inflation, we've got the massive volume of fentanyl coming across, and it's society is losing its collective mind, I feel like. And I do think that there is something the average citizen can do to make that a little bit better.
You know, you all are my heroes in this, in your efforts. It's amazing to see the power behind your conviction and your love and your hope for others. I would love to hear from Ben, Jessica, Eric, your perspective. What can people do? Just those little things when they're on the road, like the waters or the snacks, or, please share with us what is supportive and encouraging if you can't do big things at the moment.
I mean, water, snacks, anytime you see somebody homeless, if you got that handy and you give it to them, that's great. I mean, seriously though, the biggest thing you can do is just smile at everybody you meet. Talk to them. Just talk to them. I think everybody that's ever been out there homeless or in need, they're used to getting things handed to them. And that may not be what they need. Actually treat them like a human being, have a conversation with them. You don't have to go all out and make yourself super uncomfortable. Just ask them how they're doing. And if they seem open, ask them how they ended up there. To Eric's point, you got to make contact with a lot of these people dozens and dozens of times before they're ever gonna, if they ever reach out for help. But it all starts with making them feel human again and trying to establish that bond of friendship and trust. So I think it's just the smallest thing, which again, it seems small. It's not small. Just smile at everybody you meet. Ask them how they're doing.
And also there's people out there, and we know a lot of them that's the way they grew up. They grew up in a bad life, in the drug life. Some of them, some of our people we still consider friends were traded for dope when they were 12 years old. Yep. And they're still out there prostituting. Where we actually tried to find one yesterday, we still couldn't find her. But some of these people actually don't feel that there is another way, that this is the only life they've ever known. And they just don't even have the self-esteem, I guess, to even strive for better. So I think it's a big thing to actually get down to their level and talk to them just one-on-one, personal, and be like, look, there is another way out. There is another life. And that's what we try to do, is have a you know, a detox center ready and a bed ready. And there's not going to be beds all the time. But as long as they keep, as you keep going back and telling these people, look, we're always here. We're always going to be here. We will always have a handout for you. Not a handout,
Hand up.
but a hand up.
Yeah.
Because we don't do give hands out, because that just enables them. But I always want to let them know that there is another way. There is another life. It's not just the street life that they lived on. Yeah.
It took me a while to wrap my mind around that, because like Eric, you know, I came from a great family. And was raised by an Army Ranger and an industrial engineer. There was no reason for me to turn out the way I did whatsoever, aside from, you know, I knew everything. And as a result of that, I had to go out there and suffer because of it. Not everybody has the same upbringing that I had. And it sounds like Eric had, you know, Jess certainly didn't. So it took me a while to wrap my mind around the different perspectives out there. And a lot of people, they don't realize that they are worth more, they're capable of more, and there is something to strive towards. Yeah.
You know, I so beautifully said. Thank you to both of you. You know what I think stops people from even those simple things is guilt. You know, guilt because they feel like they should be doing more, or they can't do more at the moment, and then they feel bad about that. So then they just don't want to make eye contact. And, you know, I know I've worked with the homeless and addicted before. And, you know, what was amazing to me in those initial times was, oh my gosh, once they get sober and clean, it was just, we just had fun in facilitating groups. They were just, you would never know that they just were homeless and addicted. And I think that's something that we don't know if we're not familiar. You know, if we can just really remember, these are human beings. They may be not in their right mind right now because they're on something, you know, but they are human beings that respond like all of us to love and smile and care. And so I really appreciate your perspectives. Thank you so much. Eric.
Can I'm sorry. Can I add something, Sarah?
Yeah.
I did miss his story, but I am familiar, like I said, with, you know, Judge Mitchell and the running club and everything. I wanted to tap on something that was just said about they don't know anything different. Having been a nurse and worked in the area all these years in the lower social areas and with children who actually live in poverty and in drug addiction, and have parents who are incarcerated. I used to work with the children of who had parents that were incarcerated and travel the state with them. So I'm very familiar with the way it all works. And I think oftentimes we think, you know, they're beneath me. It could never happen to me. That could never be me. And, you know, we forget that it all revolves around mental health. I do work with suicide prevention. So, you know, we forget it all revolves around mental health, and that the reason often, and you know, I don't know statistics off my head, but, you know, when people turn to drugs, it's to numb the pain, it's to numb the trauma, it's to numb everything. And once you take that off the top, you find the person underneath. And I think the biggest thing that I remember is that eye contact, you know, when they're walking, that shame of being homeless, of not feeling like you're clean or you belong here or that anybody wants you. All of that on top of that, you know, with the drug use on top to numb, is where we forget that it all revolves back into mental health. And I know, like for myself, one experience that really sticks with me is I was taking a child, you know, up north to visit a parent. And I said, you know, okay, you know, sleep through the night. We're going to wake up in the morning. When you wake up, we're going to go to McDonald's. We're going to go get some food. And, you know, that's something I had done all the time. You make a drive through, run McDonald's, you don't even think twice. Here I had a child who was about 8 or 9 years old who had never been to McDonald's because they didn't have money to go to McDonald's. So something as simple as that is buying someone food. I will gladly give someone that is homeless food. I will go in the store, I will buy you food, but I will not give you money because it will enable, you know, your addiction. But we forget that it's so common in our life to be able to do the simple things, go in a store and buy something, have $1 to go to McDonald's and take a child through, you know, the dollar menu, that if they don't know it because they're not exposed to it, you know, they talk about the concrete jungle. These kids grow up, they don't know anything other than that circle block that they live in. And we who have so many advantages and know so much and are able to do things, we forget that all of that trauma, when they become adults, it's all there. And that's why it's numbed with drugs. And that's why I know as a nurse, I like working with kids, because that's when you get them. And that's when you teach them there's more outside of this circle block, drug infested homelessness that is the only thing that you know. So that's my 2 cents.
So beautifully said, Brenda. Thank you so much for sharing all that. Eric, I know we have a hard cutoff. Do you
No,
have?
I'm totally flexible. I really want to comment on what Brenda and Ben and Jessica were saying about not just a smile, something to eat. I do not give money out at all anymore. My thought is, like, if I can't get high on my money, then you can't get high on my money either. I will give someone a smile, something to eat. I have buddies in recovery that are like, I have something better than money. A buddy of ours, Mario, he says, I got something better than money. I can get you into a program that'll change your life, and you'll make your own money. And they're like, get out of here. I don't, and so there are programs available, and normal, just a person who doesn't know can do a little bit of research, find a hotline, and make that connection. That some of these places aren't the greatest or most beautiful places, but it's a stepping stone, and it's a step in the right direction. And we've all had to step there. It's a hard step, but that's where it starts.
So great. We do that too. We offer food. We'll go, give food, or even have lunch with them if we can, just for connection. But I really love hearing, from your perspective, what that means, because then it's validating for people who want to support, want to help, that don't have the answers or solution to everything. So thanks, Eric. Paul?
I think Scott might have been before me. I don't know if he's currently available or not, but I have 3 thoughts that I'd like to share. The first is that when you realize that you have a purpose in life, that gives you hope, and it gives the opportunity to share that hope with others. And I believe that's pretty much what Eric has described here today, by his recovery and then volunteering and doing all of those sort of things. I think the first time you volunteered after your recovery process was probably the beginning of understanding that you truly have a purpose and to share your story. And I sincerely mean that. The other thing I will share is that I don't give money for the same reasons that the rest of us don't. But what I do is, and this happened quite by accident, I was sitting in a Starbucks one evening with my wife, and we were just having a coffee and conversation and just spending some time together alone. And a lady walked in who was an elderly lady, was clearly homeless. And I had never realized that Starbucks would give her a little tiny sample cup of coffee, free. And I saw her walking out with that, and that really touched me a lot. So much so that I went up to the counter and I gave the guy a $20 bill. And I said, I want you to put this in a gift card. And the next time she comes in the store, I want you to give it to her. He stood there bawling. He said, nobody has ever done that. And I said, I bet they have. It's just not, you haven't experienced it. And so now, if there is a need to give somebody money, I do it for this reason. One, they can get coffee at night and maybe warm them a little. And two, they can get wholesome food there. And $20 isn't much, but it's enough to cover a meal and a good hot cup of coffee with maybe a little bit left over. And I would rather do that, because the people in Starbucks are not real fond of homeless people. And so this is serving two purposes. I want them to understand that their somewhat arrogant attitude gets in their way. And when people come in and they order things and they look at them like, how are you going to pay for this? And they hand them a gift card. They don't know where to go with that. And that's just fine. That's the way it needs to be. Anyway, I'll give it over to Scott.
Thank you, Paul. Scott?
Thanks. Yeah, Paul, that's interesting. My wife actually came up with something similar that a number of years ago. Instead of giving money, she went out and bought like these community coupon books for restaurants and other coupons at local stores, and even at some of the fast food restaurants where they have the same thing. It's free sandwich or whatever. But it's a booklet. It's not money. It's redeemable at the store for food or beverage. And so that's what we do. The question I had, and when I was listening to Eric and then the Owens just kind of talk about what they do in any given day, it makes me wonder. You guys are submerged in this 24/7. This is your life. And so where does your break time come? Where does your, obviously I have a feeling I know what you're going to say, possibly, the religious aspects here, but, for folks that are listening to this or folks that know what you guys do, how do you recharge? Where do you go for some downtime? How do you manage that? Because you guys are, it seems 24/7 in what you're doing.
For that's a great question, Scott. For me, as far as work is concerned, at 5 o'clock, we're survivors. At 5 o'clock, my phone goes off. My work phone goes off, and I leave work at work, and I really try to be present at home, because I will burn out. And we're survivors. Anyone who's calling me work related, they're going to be fine until tomorrow, unless there's an emergency. And as far as my recovery life, my people in recovery, they know they can reach out to me anytime, call or text, and I really encourage. Sometimes I call my sponsor and he's not able to pick up, but I know what to do. I know I call my next buddy in recovery and bounce my feelings off of that person. And as far as self-care, I really love to surf. That's running used to be my self-care, but with running you could still get in your head. I've run these long marathons or ultras, and you're just all these thoughts. It's like a movie up there. I discovered surfing and jujitsu, and those are the two sports that I like, that I can't be in my head. I'm just trying not to die, and so you're out in the ocean, and there's a wave coming. You gotta be in that moment and be totally unplugged to enjoy yourself. And that's the same thing with jiu-jitsu or any type of martial arts. You're really in the moment, and so that allows me to recharge.
Hey, roger that, Eric. And that's the other good thing about the West Coast Marine Corps, vice the East Coast. They think they surf on the East Coast, but that's a whole other story.
That's great. Yeah, I got to fish in one of our boys is definitely all over that. It's a great way for self-care. Well, listen,
Hey, Sarah, do you mind if the Owens, because I was I was throwing that question out to both folks there, or all three. And just because they're, they're doing something that's a bit similar, I'm just kind of curious to hear what they have to say as well.
Yeah,
So,
thank you, Scott.
and I can be quick on this. I know Eric's got to jump. But I think most of y'all know Jess and I have 8 kids, and that Flanders is our nonprofit, and we're pretty vocal that we don't take a check from it. So we've got day jobs and businesses we own in addition to that. This might sound crazy, but believe it or not, for us, what we do with Flanders is how we recharge. Getting out there on the streets, particularly when it's streets we used to be homeless on, it does something inside us, man. Now, when we've been bogged down with the Afghan evacuation of the stuff going on in Ukraine, or it's been really heavy with the day jobs, sometimes we got to take a break and go to the mountains for a couple of days. It's really difficult to pull away from everything we have to do that. But to answer your question, that is how I recharge if I have a choice. I'm going to the mountains and I'm getting away from all my devices so that I don't have 1,000 messages from 1,000 people in 100 different countries asking me for help with X, Y, and Z. That's my favorite way to recharge, but it's not always an option. So realistically, coming to Memphis or going down, to the Pittsburgh community of Atlanta, and doing outreach in those communities, there is something about it that I find very recharging. And I think Jess would, I hope, agree. There's
That's
something
like-
about working with those populations that just restores our souls.
It's just so real, isn't it? It's like real life, real connection when you're reaching out to when we're at our most raw, isn't it? And I like when you're in God's plan, I think it's just the supernatural strength that happens, which I see in you. I see that in Eric and really some of the others on this group. There is a supernatural strength that comes from being in God's plan. And I just want to thank you so much. Ben and Jessica, you have an open invitation to come share your story anytime. Just let me know and we'll set that
We'd
up.
love to do that at
Thank
some
you.
point, probably in October. That would be
That-
great.
That's awesome. I look forward to talking to you about that. And Eric, oh my gosh, just loved having you on. I'm so excited now to be connected with you. I don't feel like this is the end of the story for our connection. And I look forward to just seeing how that unfolds. And what do you want to leave us with? What would you like us to leave with?
I guess never lose hope. Like Ben said earlier, the person that looks the worst on the street, you never know what that person is going to become. And I really just try to not lose faith, not lose hope, and know that just about any situation there. Something good is going to come out of it. There's going to be a lesson learned on the other side, and we just grow every day. That's it.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, all of you, for being making this discussion great. And Eric, thank you again.